Hello there, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today's subject, how to use the hips in the golf swing. Hey, this is a big subject and there's a lot could be said about it, but we're going to give you some, I think, some natural, easy to implement ideas that'll get you on the right track. And in this video, we'll assume grip, posture. In fact, we're not even going to really talk about backswing at all. We're looking at how the hips work in the downswing. I think I got some thoughts that'll help you. Briefly, if you're new to this channel, maybe you watched the videos before but have never subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you did that. Helps us build momentum. Also hit the little red bell there and you'll be notified every time a new video is coming your way. Okay, so what are the role of the hips in the downswing? First off, even if you've got quick hips, they don't move that quickly. You can't create all that club head speed by just having hip speed. It has to translate to club head speed. Secondly, your ball, the golf ball you're trying to hit, doesn't react to your hips, reacts to the club. So the key is the hips have to affect the golf club, and they affect it in two primary ways here in the downswing: creating speed, which we'll get into, and also helping propel the thing out where there's a sense of the direction we're trying to head in. The principle is like a principle I've demonstrated in many videos before. Maybe you've watched a couple of them. The towel principle. This would be my hips, the farthest end from the club head. As I snap that thing, if I use the hips effectively, creates exponential speed in the club head or the end of the towel. We're given mobile hips, some more mobile than others. Next, lower back stable, mobile, upper thoracic trunk, arms, then club. Those are the four segments that they measure when they do biomechanical measures of golfers, baseball players, tennis players, etc. That equates to that flow of the towel. Let's have a look at the pros and we'll get out here and we'll work on it. Sergio Garcia here, premier ball striker for sure. Got a great app, the new free Scratch Golf Academy app. Just go to the app stores, type in Scratch Golf Academy. All sorts of tools to help you with warm-up, tempo, reading greens, things that'll be fun for you to take to the course. It's free. I hope you'll go consider picking that up. Let's have a look at Sergio. Let's have a look at the way his hips are moving. First thing we notice again is that disassociation. Watch his hips starting to move while the club's still going back by a fraction of a second. But you see that movement. Do his hips move laterally? They do to quite an extent. Look at that Marshall there with his hand sticking out. Look how he moves over there and covers that guy's hand up. And not only do they move laterally, they move significantly in a rotary fashion as well. Those hips are well turned through the ball as he strikes it. So should we have lateral movement in the hips? We just looked at the videos. Well, yeah, you need both lateral and rotary as we showed you. Here's where we get into some distinctions. What's right for you? Well, certainly you want enough lateral hip movement, I believe, to more or less get the hips over the hip joint, I should say, over the ankle. Get that weight there so you can push up off the ground and really whip those hips around a little bit. Hey, there's a few great players that are a little short of that with a driver especially. They can still get that done, but I believe you at least want to get the hip over the ankle. The other thing is what influences your direction. That's half of the game. Hitting it a long way is part of it. The other big part's, can you hit it where you're looking? This is where I would really recommend you as a golfer go less to the process first and more to what you're trying to get as an outcome. The genius of the mind is such you'll get most of the process right probably by just starting with that. So here's what I recommend. An old Fred Shoemaker favorite that I learned from him. Get some alignment rods, get a golf position, make sure the tip of the rod's a few inches off the ground, and just look out there and try to toss that stick, maybe half a backswing, a full follow through in the direction you're going. Believe me, if you don't think about what your body's doing, this assumes you've played some golf, you will probably be fairly close to the correct sort of movement in your hips if your head's relatively still and the stick's going where you're aiming. Let's try it again. I'm going to look out here, give myself an image. Yeah, that stick's tossing straight out there in a nice line. That's again what you're trying to do with these hips. Create some speed, create some target awareness. Do it at higher speed, do it with your head looking down at the ground. Get a feel for it that way first, then come back and adjust a little. Don't start with nitpicking what to think about with your body parts before you've even locked in on what you're trying to do. So we have Gary Woodland on the left, Tom Watson on the right. Let's look at some of the things we might notice in the downline view of this. Look at that PGA logo there on the grandstands behind Gary Woodland's tail there. And the distance between his rear end and that stays very consistent. In fact, his left hip gets a little closer to it on the way through. So one thing we can say, the hips aren't early extending. They're not pushing towards the ball target line. That's for sure. We've got other videos on that. We're not going to camp on that here in this particular video, but suffice it to say they keep their space and they certainly turn plenty. It is a rotary sport, but if we compare how much they turn with these two players, let's stop Woodland there where his knees are now square to the ball target line or very close to it. Let's do the same for Mr. Watson, 8-time major champion. I'd say maybe there. So certainly Tom Watson's much farther into his downswing than Gary is. And if we stop them at impact or just thereabout, Gary Woodland's hips are significantly more open than Tom Watson's, or noticeably more open, I would say. And there's some players that accentuate both of those even more. Let's get outside and talk about why we might see those differences. Okay, why would we see such a big distinction in the hips from one elite player to the other? Got a big pitfall I want to advise you of in this final segment here in just a moment, but let's talk about this for just a second. The fact of the matter is it's just physiology, just flexibility primarily accounts for it. Hey, any player should be separating their hips from the second segment, the upper body, but unless you're super flexible, you get your hips super open through the ball, it's surely going to drag your swing across the target line. So it all goes back again to what's right for you, what's natural for you, what is the thing that you can do most dynamically, but still be able to send the club down the target line in that key moment through impact. Okay, let's have a look at that pitfall. Here's a pitfall I frequently see when people really start to work on their hips in the downswing, and that is they get these hips going, but they fail to really make a connection between the hips and the chain, like the towel, up through the trunk and arms and golf club. So what winds up happening, the hips fly out there, then the arms come in second, trailing this back hip. You are not going to compress the ball very well like that. You need those hands up near that inside of that front leg somewhere to really apply pressure to the ball. Picture baseball at impact or a tennis impact or something like that. So your hips, certainly they've got to lead. We've been talking about that, but they have to affect the arms. Good image, I think, for you. If you had one of those cable pulls in the gymnasium with some weights you pull off the ground there, hey, listen, if you're going to pull that handle sharply to the front leg, you have to activate your core. You'd have to squeeze the ground and activate your glutes a bit. But no sooner has that happened than it's affecting the handle to get over to your front leg. That's the sort of image you want. Here's a drill I would do, help you sort that out. Short iron, you guessed it, mini swing, and what we're going to do, probably somewhere in here, is I'm going to hit the ball medium hard, but I'm going to try to stop just 6 inches to a foot after impact with my hands. If I can do that, it's very hard to stop that club with speed. If I can do that, it means everything's in front of me, my glutes and abs are working, and I can squeeze that club to a stop. If I'm way out of position, there's no way I'm stopping that with my hands. So here's the look of it. Small backswing. Nice stop position right there. Takes a little practice to get decent at it. I've seen some top players in my days with Leadbetter could hit the ball hard and actually pull the club back behind the divot instantaneously. Pretty impressive. Let's try one more. Just like that. And I can feel a real match there. I'm using my hips, but it's getting my arms in the sort of position I need for a solid impact. Well, thanks for watching. I hope that helps you with how to use your hips in the golf swing, downswing specifically. Some simple keys there. Go out there and have some fun with it. It'll get you in the right neighborhood in terms of what you're working on.